You think the 1% got there by working harder than you. Wrong. They think in systems you've never been taught, patterns you don't even see, frameworks that compound while you're still trading hours for dollars. The gap isn't effort, it's architecture. Most people optimize for comfort. The 1% optimize for leverage. Most people ask, how do I feel about this? The 1% ask, what does this cost me in 10 years? You're playing checkers. They're playing chess 3 boards deep. And here's the part that breaks people. You've been conditioned to see their decisions as cold, ruthless, inhuman. They're not. They're just expensive in ways you've never calculated. Every time you make a decision to avoid discomfort, you're paying a tax. Every time you prioritize being liked over being effective, you're bleeding leverage. Every time you let someone else's emotional expectation dictate your resource allocation, you're funding their life at the cost of yours. The 1% don't lack empathy. They've just decided most situations don't deserve it. And that decision is worth more than your entire yearly income. Feel that resistance in your chest right now. That discomfort. That's the exact firewall keeping you where you are. Sit with it. Here's what actually happens. 2 people get the same opportunity, same resources, same starting line. One builds an 8-figure operation. The other is still working on it 5 years later, blaming the market, the timing, the economy. The difference isn't talent. It's not connections. It's not luck. It's that the first person made 37 decisions the second person couldn't stomach. They fired the co-founder who was trying their best but delivering mediocre results. They walked away from a partnership that felt good but had no strategic upside. They said no to family obligations that would have drained 6 hours of prime cognitive bandwidth. The second person? They kept the co-founder out of guilt, maintained the partnership because it seemed wrong to just leave, showed up to every family event because that's what good people do. Same opportunity, opposite operating systems. Most people think success is about addition, adding more effort, more hours, more hustle. The 1% know it's about subtraction. Removing friction, eliminating emotional drag, deleting relationships that consume more than they create. You're not failing because you're not doing enough. You're failing because you're subsidizing other people's expectations with your potential. Every yes to something mediocre is a no to something exceptional. Every hour spent managing someone else's feelings is an hour you're not spending building irreversible advantage. The average person optimizes their day around avoiding conflict. The elite optimize around compounding leverage. And you can feel the difference in your bank account. Notice how you just justified keeping that person in your life. That client, that commitment. That's the operating system running in real time. Observe it without changing it yet. The 1% don't process decisions the way you do. When they evaluate an opportunity, they're not asking, is this good? They're asking, what's the second-order consequence in 36 months? You see a potential client. They see customer acquisition cost versus lifetime value versus opportunity cost of servicing that account. You see a networking event. They see time ROI, decision fatigue cost, and strategic relationship density. You see a business partnership. They see alignment probability, exit complexity, and cognitive load per interaction. It's not that they're smarter. They're running different calculations, and those calculations save them millions in mistakes you're about to make. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Most people believe their emotional availability is a virtue. They pride themselves on being there for people, on being accessible, on responding to every message, every request. Every emotional crisis in their network, the 1% understand that attention is their most expensive asset. Warren Buffett doesn't take meetings with everyone who asks, not because he's cruel, because every hour spent in a low-value conversation is an hour he's not spending on a billion-dollar decision. Jeff Bezos famously shields his mornings. No meetings before 10, not because he's lazy, because high-level strategic thinking requires uninterrupted cognitive bandwidth, and he refuses to fragment it with operational trivia. You think that's privilege? It's not. It's resource allocation. They decided their peak mental state is worth more than being universally available, and that decision compounded into empires. You're giving away your prime cognitive hours to whoever asks for them, then wondering why you're not making progress on the projects that actually move the needle. The math doesn't work. The energy isn't there. The focus is already depleted. Now look at how the average person handles relationships. They maintain friendships out of history. We've known each other since college. So what? That person hasn't learned anything new in 7 years. Every conversation is the same Junhuan of complaints, the same lack of action, the same mediocre thinking patterns. You're not being loyal. You're being inefficient. The 1% audit their network quarterly, not because they're sociopaths, because they understand that you become the average of your closest associations, and average is expensive. They ask, does this person make me sharper or duller? Do they challenge my thinking or validate my comfort? Are they building or stagnating? If the answer doesn't justify the time investment, they decrease proximity. Not with drama, not with cruelty, with professional distance and reduced availability. Same human, different strategic value, different allocation. And here's what that creates. When you're surrounded by 5 people who are outpacing you, you're forced to evolve. Your standards rise automatically. Your tolerance for mediocrity drops. Your decision-making sharpens because you're constantly exposed to higher-level thinking. When you're surrounded by 15 people who are stagnant, you're pulled toward comfortable mediocrity. Your ambitions shrink to match the group norm. Your standards adjust downward to maintain social cohesion. The 1% choose discomfort in their relationships. They want people who make them feel slightly behind, slightly outmatched, slightly inadequate, because that feeling is growth signal. You choose comfort, people who make you feel accomplished, validated, secure in your current position. And that comfort is a cage. Most people will never understand this because they've been taught that cutting people off is cruel, that maintaining low-value relationships is kindness. It's not kindness. It's financial suicide with a compassionate narrative. Every hour you spend with someone who isn't elevating you is an hour you're not spending with someone who would. Every emotional crisis you absorb from someone who refuses to change is energy. You're not investing in your own transformation. The 1% aren't heartless. They've just calculated what empathy actually costs, and they've decided that unlimited empathy is unaffordable. Think about the last week. How many hours did you spend managing other people's emotions? How many decisions did you delay because you were worried about how someone would react? Now multiply that by 52 weeks. Then, by 10 years. That's not compassion. That's your entire empire, traded for the feeling of being a good person. Here's what you do, starting tomorrow. Audit every relationship you maintained contact with in the last 30 days. Write down their names next to each one. Write the last piece of knowledge they gave you that changed your behavior. If the list is blank, they're a divestment candidate. You're not ghosting them. You're reallocating bandwidth. Stop responding to messages in real time. Build a response. Protocol. Low-value requests get batched once per day. Strategic conversations get scheduled blocks. Everything else gets professional distance. Your availability is not a public resource. Next, identify the 3 decisions you've been delaying because you're afraid of conflict. The employee you should fire. The partnership you should exit. The commitment you should break. Make one of those decisions this week. Execute it cleanly. No preamble, no apology tour, no emotional processing in real time. Decide, execute, process later. Now rebuild your calendar around leverage, not availability. Block your peak cognitive hours. Morning or evening, doesn't matter. Those hours are unavailable for meetings, calls, or reactive work. If someone needs you during that window, they wait. If it's urgent, they pay premium rates or premium access cost. Your peak state has a price. Stop giving it away for free. Start saying no without explanation. That doesn't fit my current priorities is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone a dissertation on your resource allocation decisions. No is not cruelty, it's strategy. Finally, find one person who's 3 years ahead of where you want to be, not 10 years. 3. Close enough that their path is replicable, far enough that they're uncomfortable to be around. Decrease proximity to comfort. Increase proximity to pressure. That discomfort you're feeling right now. That resistance to cutting people off, to saying no to being that person. That's the exact operating system keeping you broke. Feel it, then override it anyway. You know what separates you from them now. It's not intelligence, not work ethic, not opportunity. It's the willingness to make decisions that feel ruthless until the results prove they were necessary. The 1% wake up in homes designed for clarity, not comfort. Spaces engineered to eliminate decision fatigue. Routines built to protect cognitive bandwidth, like it's the last non-renewable resource on Earth. Because it is. They're not sitting in traffic feeling guilty about the meeting they declined. They're not lying awake wondering if they hurt someone's feelings by enforcing a boundary. They're not spending Sunday managing someone else's emotional crisis. They're compounding. While you're explaining yourself, they're executing. While you're maintaining relationships out of obligation, they're building networks out of strategy. While you're optimizing for being liked, they're optimizing for being irreplaceable. And the gap widens every single day. You can feel it now. That quiet knowing that you've been subsidizing mediocrity with your potential. That every yes to comfort has been a no to empire. The operating system is visible now. The question is whether you'll override it. Because the 1% aren't coming to save you. They're not waiting for you to catch up. They're moving faster than you can see, using frameworks you've never been taught, making decisions you're still too expensive to make. You either become unavailable to average, or you stay accessible to everyone. One builds wealth, the other performs empathy. Choose accordingly.